You're also live on all other social media portals.
It started, sir. YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, all started.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm welcome to you once again for this evening edition of MMA program. I know you're all itching to come to MMA for a hybrid event. We have lined up some very good events for you in MMA, but the things are happening in such a manner, it is forcing us to go back to online even for the time being. Till such time things really improve, we did not want to really expose you to or endanger you to some of the things what's happening. So I just briefly tell you what's happening in MMA. Next event is on Wednesday, the 7th of this month, Wellness for Success. Today we are having financial mint your money. The Wellness for Success also is your financial illness. We are also very keen about your physical illness. We have some outstanding doctors talking to you on mental health development, also physical health. They're also nutrition and dietitian, but not to head and hand Mr. Shyam Shekhar, founder and chief ideator of I Thought Financial Consulting. He'll be talking to us on financial well-being. Actually, at the end of the day, we strongly believe you are financially well, everything can be handled, including COVID, I suppose. But the financial wellness is very important. This is supposed to be an hybrid event at MMA, but due to popular request of our members and a couple of speakers who are little not very comfortable to come to MMA and do this event, and we also do not want to take a chance at the moment, and that too immediately after election. We want people to sit back, relax at home, and watch this program online. This event will be totally online. So if you want, we already sent you the mail. You can log in either by Zoom as usual, or YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and our as usual our own MMA streaming, and also MMA radio. Then we also have an event on the 10th, again a virtual. This is a very important event, the virtual CSR refresher. This we are doing for the people to understand the latest amendments in CSR law, and also how to fill up a CSR registration for implementing agencies. We got two outstanding people in the field of CSR. Krishna Swami is a founder, chief patron of CSR Park. And also Nikhil Pant is CEO of Reach, from a former program executive of NFCSR, honorary advisor of CSR Park. He's joining us because this is very important for implementing agency. Not only you have to register with Ministry of Corporate Affairs, is to be duly certified by a chartered accountant. There are a couple of mandatory requirements that come which you have to implement. We wanted all our friends who implement CSR to be very much aware of this program so that you don't violate law and get into the cost of violation is quite expensive. So we thought we'll do this evening webinar that you can learn. And on Monday, the 12th, again, interesting event and very ideal event post-election, that is social infrastructure as political investment for economic development, the Tamil Nadu experience. Tamil Nadu Darwinian culture, how we transformed the state into one of the most prosperous state. Otherwise, what exactly happened? We got outstanding speaker to discuss. Satyamurthy is a distinguished fellow of ORF, and Mr. Narayanan IA, former retired finance secretary of India, he'll be talking to us. And also Sushila Ravindranath, journalist, columnist, and also Janagaraj is also former president of South Asia Consortium of Interdisciplinary Water Resource Studies, Hyderabad, and former professor of MIDS. So it's again interesting event. We'll get to know more. And on the 17th, we have another interesting event, free trade post-pandemic, national versus national. This is supposed to happen at Leela Palace. As on now, we are holding on to Leela Palace reservation. There will be an event at Leela Palace. We have some outstanding speakers. Mr. Herbert Deiter is come from Germany. He's going to be talking to us. Mr. Gurumurthy is confirmation awaited. He'll be joining us. Sundar Ramaswamy, and former Vice Chancellor of Kriya University, economist. Arun Kumar, one of the Malcolm Adishesha chair professor from New Delhi Institute of Social Studies. Yamashal Mathresh will be doing this conversation. And we have Mr. Kumar, K. Kumar, is a senior partner at Deloitte, will also be joining us. This is happening on the 17th. And I'll take some more time so that people logging in don't miss this initial part of our event. Then on the Saturday, the 24th, we have a leadership series with Pons veterans. We have Sanjana Mathur, Strategic Alliance Manager, Freshwork. She'll be joining us. Then on Monday, the 26th, we have another interesting event by Women Business Council, Brand and the World of Women. And we have Maithili Chandrasekharan. She's a former Senior Vice President, National Planning Director of J. Walter Thompson, and she is also going to be talking to us, and Balram will be chairing the session. And the final event for this month is 29th of April. Success story outdoors done by we have Sri Vidya Ganesh, Director and CEO of Advanced Bolting Solutions Private Limited. She'll be talking to us from Mumbai. So these are some of the events that we thought we'll have. And coming to today's event, again, interesting event, interesting speaker, equally interesting person who is going to be leading the conversation with the speaker. Mint your money. Yes, Mint your money means don't print your money. Mint your money is the way it's going to tell you how you're going to make your money in different manner and how you understand intelligently you have to. And we have two outstanding personality to talk to this evening. And we have Pranjal Kamra, founder and CEO of Finology, is going to be talking to us. He has written a book, Mint Your Money, and an easy manual for unlocking the wealth creating potential. Very interesting, very good book, because we wanted the speaker to come and share his insight on the thing, and none other than Lokeshwari, who is going to lead the conversation with her. And I will have the privilege of introducing both the speakers. Before that, let me warmly welcome all the viewers watching this program live from all our social media portals, including we have viewers watching on Twitter, LinkedIn, also our MMA radio, webcast, YouTube. As usual, if you have any question, please share your questions by WhatsApp to the number which is flashing on your screen. And both the speakers and the speaker Pranjal as well as the moderators kindly agreed to respond to all your questions. Please address your questions relating to financial wellness, of which is the topic for this evening. And the topic is Mint Your Money, Pranjal Kamra in conversation with Lokeshwari. Let me briefly introduce the distinguished speakers before we move on. Let me have the privilege of introducing Mr. Pranjal Kamra. Pranjal is also the founder. Pranjal is also founder CEO of India's biggest financial education and one-stop investment platform, Finology, and the platform provides online courses, legal certificates, much more. Proprietary free use stock research interface called Ticker, which gives a detailed overview of the stocks via an intuitive and easy to understand interface. Finology also has recently launched Select, an innovative broker selection platform. It is a product portfolio. Pranjal Kamra is totally a finance man, always thinking innovative, and we are going to have a feast of a time. He's going to share some of the insight, which I'm quite sure will help us in a way. Let me have the privilege of introducing Ms. Lokeshwari. Lokesh will be in conversation with the author and also Pranjal. Lokesh is associate editor of the Hindu Business Line, and she's also currently heads the business line data research vertical. She is an open columnist and also part of the BL editorial team. She has over 25 years of experience in tracking and analyzing financial market, and also writes on the politics, regulations, and trends. Prior to joining a business line, she headed the investment advisory, InvestWise, and today it's very, very relevant. She's rightly chairing the session today. And a chartered certified accountant. She did her articles with KPMG Mauritius. Very warm welcome to you, Lokeshwari. And now it's a time we're all waiting for. Let me have the proud privilege of the book getting launched so that the people will be discussing on the theme of the book, Mint Your Money by Pranjal Kamra, to read this book, and you'll be really happy to read this book and go through the thing. And it's a nice to really discuss about the theme of the book, which is going to be really, really useful to each one of us. We are indeed privileged. Pranjal came sparing his valuable time to speak to us. Many congratulations, Pranjal. Wish you all the very best and look forward to seeing you many more books. Now I'll request Pranjal to share his brief thoughts on the book. Thereafter, Lokeshwari, it's all yours, madam. Thank you once again, all the viewers. Sit back and share your questions, if any. Over to you, Pranjal.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction and for the launch. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Thank you so much, members, for taking out time and listening to me. Hopefully, I'll make it worthwhile. So, I'll start with my objective of writing this book. What, gave me that basic spark that why I should be writing this book. So, there was this survey conducted in US, which told that on an average, out of the total wealth that you have, the wealth that you have accumulated at the time you retire. So suppose you have 100 rupees of your net worth, accumulated net worth at the time you retire, almost 40% of it comes from how well have you invested your money, saved your money. So basically 40% comes from passive income. Now think of it this way. We slog all our life, probably 30, 35, 40 years of our working life, working 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. And when we retire, it basically sums up to 60% of our total net worth. And our next 40% actually depends on how well we invest our 60% that we have earned. So, and that could make a difference of up to 40%. So at the time of retirement, whether you end up with 2 crore rupees or 3 crore, that 1 crore actually depends on how well you plan your savings and investment. And compare this, working 48 hours a week for 35, 40 years versus giving 30 minutes a week, 30 minutes in year. Remember, 30 minutes in year towards proper financial planning, and this will end up to 40%. So it does not involve a lot of time. Its fruits are really, really great, and it can be done by anyone. And yet, be it school, colleges, we are taught accounts, we are taught equity research, we are taught economics, we are taught probability, statistics. But even at B schools, are we taught financial planning? Not really. And uh, investing in stocks could be optional. Investing and learning about debt instruments could be optional. But financial planning is something that's not optional. It's mandatory. Everyone needs it. And yet, this is one life skill that is not taught. And this could create a huge impact in most people's life. So this was why I thought of writing something on it. So I had read a lot of books on personal finance. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a lot of great books in India written by Indian authors. And because financial planning has a lot of, it gives a lot of importance to tax planning, insurance regulations, it is very country specific. Unlike investing in stocks, wherein the fundamental theory remains the same, personal finance, whether a home loan makes sense in US, the same home loan makes sense in India or not, completely depends on the Indian regulatory environment. So I thought of writing a book on personal finance, which is basically Indianized to suit the needs of everyone. So this was the purpose of writing. And I'll give you some very simple examples now as to, how, because, most people don't do financial planning because they think it's complicated. And in a minute, I'll tell you what simple steps can we take to drastically improve our financial well-being. One simple thing is, so I remember conducting a seminar. It was, so a year ago, it was the era of seminars. So I was conducting a seminar and I was amongst a lot of finance professionals, and very few people actually knew about auto sweep as an option. So basically, when it comes to current accounts, we assume that we are not going to earn any interest on current accounts because we sacrifice returns for the flexibility that it offers. So current accounts, no interest. Savings account, 2.5%, 3%. Whereas, you just go to your banker, they won't tell you, but you just go to your banker. And in most banks, some public sector banks don't offer it, but some do. And almost all private sector banks offer this. You just go to your banker and tell them that you know what an auto sweep is and you want it to get activated in your current or savings account, and bingo, you instantly start earning 5%, 5.5% in your savings account and your current account as well. So you retain the flexibility of a savings or current account, and yet you match the returns of a fixed deposit. And I'm sure still most people don't have it activated and they're not aware of it. Now, this is not even planning. This is just one small, simple step which will increase your returns from your savings for your entire future. It's as simple as that. Just requesting your banker once. So this is one example. And basically the book is filled with numerous dozens of such examples. So, most financial planning webinars, seminars, books, they talk about changing how you need to change your lifestyle drastically, how you need to, let go of your joys, your passions, your hobbies, and save more and deprive children of luxuries, of toys, of movies and things like that. And I think that really doesn't work, because it's like a diet or going to a gym. You do it very, very diligently for a few months, for a few weeks, but then it takes a lot of your mental capacity and you end up doing away with it. So this book has primarily focused on not changing your lifestyle, not asking you to sacrifice. It does not basically ask you to save more by giving up on your expense. It tells you, no matter what you are saving, you're saving 1,000 rupees a month and you're keeping that in a savings account or an FD, how to utilize that 1,000 rupees, which you're already saving, in a better way to generate more passive income. So I think one differentiating factor is, unlike other financial books, we are not asking you to sacrifice more. Another example, very simple example is about gold. We Indians really passionate about gold, and naturally so. I think it makes all the logical sense in the world to accumulate gold. It is one asset class that has shown it's irreplaceable in the last 2000, 1000 years, keeps on compounding like none other. So it makes all the sense. But, very few people still know about first sovereign gold bond, why that is absolutely blindly the best way to invest in gold. So, there are very few financial instruments which I can blindly suggest to everyone. Sovereign gold bond is one, because first, it has no making charges, no melting charges, no arbitrage, no expenses, nothing. You get absolutely 100% pure gold at the price of what the gold is. No additional charges, no fee, no expenses, nothing. No, threat of theft, fire, anything, getting lost, anything like that. It's guaranteed by the sovereign authority. And on top of it, if you buy a sovereign gold bond worth 1 lakh rupees, you get 2.5% annual interest. So basically, it's an instrument that gives you capital gains of gold while ensuring that you get regular returns what a savings account offers. So absolutely no reason why not to buy it. And yet I see people buying digital gold ETFs and all kinds of products instead of this one simple product. Another thing on top of this, which makes it even more lucrative, is that very few people buy it from the stock exchange. So like we buy stocks from the stock exchange, bonds from the bond exchange. Sovereign gold bond is also listed in the secondary market. And when you buy it from there, at times you get up to 10% of discount. So if gold is at 50,000, if you're lucky, you could get it for 45, 46,000. Otherwise, you would get it for 47, 48,000. So you are buying it anywhere 5 to 7% cheaper if you buy it from the secondary market. So if you think gold is expensive, just go to the secondary market, and simple, you use your demat account to buy this as well. On top of it, if you hold it till its maturity, which is 8 years, you get all kinds of tax benefits as well. I mean, you get income tax benefits as well. So it's tax friendly. It gives you more returns than gold. It's absolutely safe. I think there's no other instrument like this, and this is an absolute must buy for everyone. And yet, not everyone invests. Everyone invests in mutual funds, insurance, but not sovereign gold bond. And I think this is really, really unfortunate. I mean, if from this entire webinar that we're doing today, there has to be one takeaway, I think this is the one, that please invest in sovereign gold bond. They don't pay me anything. I know I'm almost acting like a brand ambassador, but I don't get anything out of it. I think everyone, it's beneficial for everyone. Moving on, one last thing that I would like to brief here is that we talk a lot about compounding. We discuss a lot about compounding without really understanding, how it works and how to make it work to your advantage. So first, let's make this clear for everyone, that how powerful compounding is. So there's this one very interesting story that the man who invented chess, the game of chess, went to the king and explained him the game. And the king was really impressed, and he asked him, ask me whatever you want and I'll give it to you. So the inventor tells him that all I want is you put 1 grain of rice on the first block on the board, 2 grains of rice on the second, 4 on the next, and you keep doubling it till you reach the 64th block. And the king laughs at him, ridicules him, that, I thought you were an intelligent man, you developed such an intelligent game, and here you are asking for grains of rice. But the man insists that, no, this is what I want. And then when he asks his ministers to fulfill that task, they end up coming back to the king saying they have exhausted all the storage, all the grains of rice that they had in the kingdom, and still the demand could not be fulfilled because it's 2 to the power 64, and which basically in volume terms, if you measure in terms of grains of rice, is bigger than Mount Everest. So, the kingdom did not have that much amount of grain. So, one great thing about compounding is it works for you if you give it time. Compounding needs time. So, but what happens in most cases is that first, either we don't plan at all, or we plan by the time we are 45, 50, 55. So, Warren Buffett, he's one of the richest people on earth, the most successful investor, not because he has invested in the best stocks or his returns in absolute terms is the best. The fact that he's one of the richest is because he started at 11 and he's 90 right now. So he has given himself 80 years of time for his money to compound. So, 10,000 rupees invested in Wipro 40 years ago is worth 800 crore rupees now. And this is not because Wipro has doubled every year. The CAGR is close to 38, 39%, which is still phenomenal. But most of it has come because Wipro has been alive for the last 40 years. So I think starting early is the key. And what is early? Starting today is early. No matter how old you are, if you delay by a day, you are only stopping compounding from happening. So I think another key takeaway is please start now. So yeah, I mean, this was the basic premise of the book that I wanted to share. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pranjal, for that very interesting opener. Good evening, everyone. It gives me a great pleasure to be discussing this book, Mint Your Money, written by Pranjal Kamra. He's very fast evolving into a internet sensation and also a modern age investment guru. As you all heard, he has lots of insights to offer to all of us. I'd like to thank MMA and Group Captain Vijay Kumar for inviting me to be part of this discussion. Thank you very much, sir. So what really struck me when I was reading the book is that it's written by someone who really understands the investor's psyche and the mistakes they make and the mistakes that they have to avoid. That's what's really come out very clearly in this book. And Pranjal has tried to elucidate these errors that people make through fictional characters to show us how to avoid making these mistakes. I also like the particularly easy and conversational tone that Pranjal adopts, and he has this tone which he uses in his videos and online classes also, if any of you have heard it. It's of course in Hindi, but it's really very, very interesting to watch. So let's just start the conversation, Pranjal. So you say in your book that personal capital is equal to true assets minus liabilities. I find this concept of true assets very interesting because I've not really come across this anywhere. I don't think you talk about true assets as real assets because real assets means real estate and gold and physical assets. Of course, this book is full of jargons, new jargons that you have coined yourself, I think. It's just scattered all over the book. So can you please explain what this true assets is? Because I think this differentiation is very important tenet for actually wealth creation. So can you just explain on that?
So, ma'am, this makes me nostalgic in the sense that when the book was almost ready, and it was with the person who helped me with my editing and the publishers, Westland, the biggest debate was around what do we exactly say this? The new kind of asset definition that we have given, what do we actually call it? We can't call it real assets because that already exists. So we came up with this. So yes, I mean, this is one thing that we have completely coined it ourselves. And because of lack of imagination, we couldn't come up with a better name. So, so apologies for that. So, but what true assets are and what was the need for us to actually differentiate it from assets? So the problem was that, basic accounting teaches us that if you buy a car, it's an asset, right? It's an asset. So when we understand that as commerce students and then they teach that to their arts and science students, when in our lives, when we are the ones in charge of managing the family's finances, we don't actually, our mind does not really know how to differentiate productive use of money and use of money which is not going to help us generate more cash flows in future. For us, even buying a car is an asset, buying a gold is asset, buying a building is asset. But it's clear to us that if you buy a property that gives you rental yield versus you buy a piece of gold versus you buy a car for your own consumption, the other two might give you one. If you buy physical gold, it will give you capital gains when you exit it. Property, it could give you regular returns as well. At the same time, if you sell, it will give you capital gains. Versus a car that will only depreciate in real value. So for us, these assets, they need to be differentiated. A car could be an asset, but for my cash flow, my savings, my investment, it's not a true asset because it does not help me earn more. It does not help me expand my income. Of course, if that car you plan to attach it to Uber, then it makes sense to be called as a true asset. But in general, for most of us, it's not a true asset. So my problem is that, all of us want to earn more, but we don't want to earn more because we want to invest more. If you ask a child versus you ask a senior citizen, someone who's 60, 65, their entire life, they have aspired to earn more simply because so that they could spend more, so that they could increase their expenses, and not, investment is always a byproduct. Whatever remains, let's buy something, let's buy 1 gram of gold coin and things like that. So most people, they want to earn more because they want to increase their expenses. They think increasing their expenses will make them happy. So, how to deal with this? The premise, the way to deal with this is that, you increase your savings, you invest your savings in a way that, that helps you with your expenses. You live out of interest, basically. You live out of interest income. You don't deplete your principal. That is the premise. So how do you invest your savings that no matter, even if you increase your expenses regularly, your passive income is able to take care of it, and on top of it, you keep increasing your basic corpus, your capital. So I think that's the key point here.
So the way I understood was it's like differentiating between a consumption and investment. That is, some expenses are just consumption, which we kind of think is an asset that we are building, like you said, the car and so on.
In fact, ma'am, we just blanket these days. We just put a blanket tag to real estate that it's an investment, and I think real estate is also quickly being commoditized. And a lot of real estate is now actually consumption in a way, because, when we analyze returns from real estate, basically your returns depend on how close you are to the land. The best kind of real estate returns, neglecting regular returns from rental yields, capital appreciation wise, if you buy hard land, pure land. But, these expensive 5-star real estate societies, townships that we have, there we have to understand that we are not only buying real estate. Real estate cost is probably 30%, 40% of it. The rest is the experience that we are buying. Of course, I mean, if it gives you peace, if you desire it, yes, it's not bad to buy. You should buy that. But then in your mind and on your financial planning Excel sheet, you should keep that distinction clear, that if this house is worth 2 crores, 1 crore I'm paying for the land and maybe 30-40 lakhs for the construction. Rest 60 lakhs I'm paying for the address, for the society, and for the experience, which is consumption, which is not real estate.
Yeah, because I was going to go into that question next, because a lot of people kind of weighing their EMI and maintenance and everything of the real estate and think maybe renting a property is better. So have you actually done this math and seen whether is it okay to just go ahead and rent and put the extra as a savings into your account, and is that a way to actually increase your wealth? Is that a good idea at all?
Right. Okay. So I think this calculation, if we just go by this calculation, we'll always end up with the conclusion that renting is better, because this is supply and demand. If you're living in a house and you're paying a rent of, say, 20,000 rupees or 30,000 rupees, and if you could buy the same house with an EMI of 20,000 or 30,000 rupees, then no one would live in the house as a tenant. Everyone would look to buy that house. So because of market forces, automatically the rent would fall down to 10, 12, 8,000, so that now the tenant is confused. Should I double my monthly expenses and go for a home loan, or at 50% of that, I should continue living as a tenant? So now what I have seen is usually whatever the home loan rates are, say right now it's close to 7.5%. The rental cost will be half of that, 40-50% of that, so that the tenants are always in a fix. So real estate market is comparatively a lot efficient, and this is where the efficiency comes in. that, your rental expense is close to 3-4% if the home loan rates are 7-8%. So you always have to double your expense to actually be able to afford it. So going by the pure mathematical logic, it will always be cheaper to live in a rental property, always. But having said that, I don't believe in completely mathematical judgments. I think financial planning, investing has to have an element of humanity, psychology, emotion, and what we desire. Because otherwise, you don't need me, you don't need any financial gurus. Otherwise, these financial modeling and AI and artificial learning calculators would handle stock market investments and personal finance as well. I think every individual is different. It's not only about what makes mathematical sense. It's also about what gives you peace. I have seen my family members, my grandmother, my grandfather, struggling and aspiring. Their ultimate aim in life was to have a house of their own. Their entire lives, they lived in a rented house. And I see what it meant for them emotionally when 10 years ago, my father purchased his first house. That was beyond any mathematical calculations. And just that sense of security and sense of being of having a permanent residence. Because when we were tenants, I know I was young, but I know that every 3, 4, 5 years, the landlord would ask us that, now I need to reconstruct it. Now my relatives need the house. I need the house, so you need to vacate. And every 3, 4, 5 years, this panic would kick in that within a month or so, we need the house in the same locality because my mother had a job nearby. Our schools were nearby. So this causes a lot of stress as well, and things like that. So mathematically, it will make sense to rent a house, but it depends on what kind of an individual you are. And I think for most people, having their own house in which they live makes complete sense.
I totally agree with you because buying a house is an emotional decision for most of us. The first home. Okay. So now what about a second home? Because many people think they go and buy a second home as an investment, right?
Right.
So what is your view on that? Is that a good idea?
Right. So, personally speaking, I wouldn't like that idea unless, again, there's no blanket answer for that. I think no matter, some individuals, I know that no matter how much you tell them how mutual funds are beneficial, how good sovereign gold bonds are, they just don't feel, secure in that. I see people who invest 1 crore rupees in real estate without blinking their eyes. And if you ask them to invest 2 lakh rupees in a mutual fund, which is just 2% of their net worth, they would say 2 lakh rupees in a mutual fund. It's extremely risky. So again, I would say, yes, it doesn't make a much, mathematical sense to invest in a second house for the purpose that, it could give you capital appreciation or it acts as an emergency fund. I think gold makes better sense in that regard. It has more liquidity. It's easier the legal processes are easier. With digital gold, it's easier to store. So I think that security purpose which real estate gave to a lot of people, I think now digital gold, sovereign gold bond solves that purpose better. Property as an investment makes sense if you're sure that you are also going to get handsome rental yield. So if it's a commercial real estate wherein the rental yields are good, or if it's a particular locality wherein you are sure that a big government project is coming next to it and the rental yields will shoot up and the market does not recognize it. This is a case of time arbitrage. If you're really, really sure about that particular property, it could make sense. But in general, no. Second residential property for the purpose of investment only does not make much sense.
Okay. Moving on.
What are your views on it, though? I would love to know your views.
Yeah, even I don't think it's a great idea when you look at the returns on the real estate as such, because I think it's peaking out in most cities as of now. And they also been coming down, the real estate prices actually coming down. So even if people have invested about 2 to 3 years ago, they may be seeing the value of their purchases going down, right?
Sure.
So if you're buying it for the capital appreciation purpose, I don't think a second home as an investment is a great idea.
Right.
Completely. That's my view also. Yeah. But I agree that the first home is an emotional decision. We can't really say anything about that at all.
Sure.
Yeah. So But the interesting part about your book was the importance that you give to debt as such. You put it before investments in the way you've ordered the book. And you dwell a lot on the debt aspect, how the debt has to be reduced and so on. And you also talk about good debt and bad debt. That's another jargon I think you came up with. So can you again differentiate in what's a good debt and a bad debt? And you also, I think, talk about the way you have to repay, which debt has to be repaid first. So can you just explain a bit on
Sure.
that?
Sure, ma'am. So the definition of good debt, I think it's extremely simple for us. There are two conditions, and a debt has to meet either of the two conditions to be eligible to be called as a good debt. One is if the cost of funds is lesser than the prevailing inflation. Happens very, very rarely in current time, with home loans coming down and with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana subsidies and things like that. There are cases wherein, your effective and the tax benefits on home loan as well. Your effective cost of funds is around 3.5–4%. Makes absolute sense. Basically, the bank is paying you money to make use of their funds. Makes absolute sense. So home loan, specifically if your tax bracket is above 20% or you are eligible for this PMAY scheme, makes all the sense in the world. Even without these incentives, I think it's a great time to avail a home loan, 7% around about that. It makes all the sense in the world. Second, education loan. I think this is one which is completely unavoidable because ultimately you are. I mean, if I talk in a completely practical, non-emotional sense, if you are investing in education loan, you are creating a future asset that pays you regular income much more because now you are highly educated. So in that case, you don't worry about your monthly out. Of course, it has to have a cap and it should be as part of a balanced financial plan for your family. But in general, should you take education loan for yourself or for your children? Yes, you definitely should. The order of payment of your, if you have multiple loans, how should you pay off your loans? One, whichever has the highest interest rate. Generally credit cards are the one, I see credit cards with up to 48%, 50% interest rates. So definitely that is the one that you have to pay back on priority. And there's this one trick that these banks have, wherein every time you try and pay a credit card bill, they give you two options: pay total amount due, pay minimum amount due. And the fact that bank is giving you an option, our mind instinctively tells us, oh, this can do no harm. Bankers telling us pay minimum amount due and carry it over. And the way they have named it, it makes you feel that this can be no harm. If I pay this amount, I wouldn't be charged any penalty. And I see, so I'm of the age group wherein, a lot of, I interact with a lot of freshers. A lot of my friends are just 2 years, 3 years into the job world. And this is the time wherein they see that, okay, I can buy the AC, I can buy the next television, the refrigerator, I can surprise my mom, my father with the next bike, the next car, things like that. And they keep doing this, paying minimum amount due, and the interest expense, it's completely endless and a classic case of debt trap actually. So, you just list out your debt, whichever has the highest interest rate, please pay that away quickly. In some cases, what happens is you just can't pay it off. So then there's this other way wherein, okay, I have 50,000 of savings and this is one particular loan which is worth 45,000. It could make sense wherein, you just pay that off and just get rid of that, so that at least you feel that out of the 10 loans, this one is done and now I have 9 left. If you're really short on funds, this could make sense. But in most cases, highest interest rate paid off initially.
Okay. See, off late, many investors are, there's a lot of redemption from, of course, equity mutual funds and debt mutual fund. Also, people are very wary because of all the issues that have been happening. And we see a lot of people moving into the direct stocks investing, investing in stock market directly. Do you think that's a good idea? And what kind of preparation do you think investors need to do before they actually start into the stock markets, directly?
Right. So, I would say that it's not a bad idea, but the problem is most people start with the wrong expectations. Most people shift to direct stocks not because they think they know how the stock market works, or because they know that these are the 5 companies I know really well about, and I know that these 5 companies will have a really good future, and thereby I want to directly participate in their growth. If the thought process is that, then yes, I mean, your mindset is right and you should invest in stocks. But I think most people invest in stocks because mutual fund is no fun. That's true for a lot of youngsters. It's no fun. And second, I want to outperform mutual fund. I want to outperform all other asset classes. I want to be the next Warren Buffett or the next Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. So if you're starting with that point of view, I think you're asking for trouble, because ultimately, the higher expectations you have, the more likely you are to take higher risks and end up eroding your capital. So if the expectations are right, I see a lot of people who are not very active in terms of investing directly in stocks, but their portfolio comprises of 3, 4, 5 companies, which includes companies they have worked for, or their family members work for, or their colleagues have worked, or they got ESOPs, their family members know the company inside out, and they're content with those 5 stocks, and they don't do a lot of juggling and shuffling with their portfolio. I think that really works well. I've seen, normal middle class people accumulating huge wealth because they were distributors of Asian Paints, distributors of Tanishq, Titan, and they could see how well the company was doing, and they thought, I should also participate as an owner in the company. Works really well. I think this everyone should do. So, I think each one of us, we are all working professionals. Even if we are students, we know certain companies more than the market does. Now, a student knows how Navneet is doing. A student knows how Byju's is doing. A student knows how Naukri.com is doing. If you are a pharma professional, IT professional, banker, market is intelligent and efficient to an extent in general. But I think 137 crore Indians, they have an edge in a particular sector wherein the market does not know how much that individual does. So, even if you are a homemaker, you know which detergent, which soap you are preferring, which soap, which detergent your maid prefers, and she complains whether this detergent removes the stain nicely or not. So you have an insight which the market does not. Everyone has an insight. That particular sector, that particular industry, you should invest directly. I think everyone should invest directly. You have an edge there. But otherwise, for most individuals, for 80-90% of your equity allocation, it should be through mutual funds.
So that's very interesting, because you're saying, in a way, intuitively, you do some kind of research based on what you know. That's what you're saying, right?
Absolutely.
But besides that, you think if someone wants to really do direct investing, they should be going through the financial reports and some other websites. They can do some kind of research by themselves before actually putting some money, investing directly. What do you think?
Right. So I'll take a step back. Firstly, I think apart from, so I call this, so basically it's called circle of competence, wherein you invest in companies which you know because of your profession, your life, your family. If you want to move out of that and invest, I think it does not make sense for many people, except if you want to, make a career as an investment professional, then yes, it's a good start wherein you start investing in equities directly. It makes all the sense. Or you're really passionate about it. For example, ma'am, I still don't invest because I did not start investing because I wanted to make a lot of money. I still don't invest because I don't judge myself from my CAGR and things like that. I think investing was a logical extension to me because I really liked studying about brands, marketing strategies, how an entrepreneur grew this company and things. So I like studies about business case studies and business and management success stories. So investing then became a natural extension to me because this involved doing the same. It involved studying management, it involved studying the industry, marketing, things like that. And then financial statement analysis is a small additional part of it. But it's basically what I was already doing. So as soon as I started, understanding and reading labels or newspapers, I would go to the general store. My grandmother would buy things and I would compare. Okay, so this biscuit gives 200 grams for 20 rupees, whereas the other one, it's the exact same Marie or Parle Gluco biscuit, but the other one is 2 rupees cheaper. We should get that. What are the ingredients, where it's manufactured? So I liked doing that. So if someone is really passionate about economics, someone is passionate about branding, marketing, entrepreneurship, or directly investing in stocks, yes, this is a great way to turn your passion into additional income. Otherwise, if you just come from the mindset that I want to directly invest in all kinds of stocks just because I want to increase my income, I think it becomes rather counterproductive, because it involves a lot of time. All my reading is around this field. So someone who's not from this field, I don't really think he or she has that time to actually invest in understanding companies which are not from his circle of competence. And then, you have to also understand that ultimately, whether you are investing 1 crore rupees in a company, or 1 lakh rupees in a company, or 20 lakh rupees in a company, it involves the same amount of research as an individual. Even if you have 5 lakh rupees to invest, you will need to study that company for weeks. So someone who does not have a lot of capital, it does not make much sense to invest that amount of time in researching that company. And that too, if you're not passionate. If you're not passionate, it means you're doing it as a task, as a punishment. I think it really does not make much sense. You would at best match the mutual fund returns, or even if you exceed their returns by a couple of percentage points, I don't really think from a cost and time basis, from that calculation, it makes much sense. And so I'm an investment advisor. It goes against my business, but that's the harsh reality. You shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about risk, because you, I think, are addressing mainly the younger set. In the book, I think, is targeted at the people who are beginning to work, maybe 30s, no? Mid 30s, right. 40s.
Absolutely.
So people who are little about, let's say, people in their 50s and 60s and all, they're very risk averse, right? Mm-hmm. They don't really want to take any kind of risk. So they would like to avoid all market-linked instruments if possible. So that's why I think bank deposits in this country have the highest corpus, right? 29 lakh crore or something, or much more. So,
and that is the age group that has the funds, actually.
So, yeah, but most of it isn't fixed deposits, because they wouldn't want to take any kind of, because they don't want to take capital loss, Sure. That is important to them, to a lot of people, which I understand also. Because capital loss is something they want to avoid, or a little bit of interest is fine. So what do you think? Is it really necessary to take some kind of risk to beat inflation?
Right.
Or is it okay to what people are doing is okay?
Right. So I think, it again depends on the time they can give to the market. So for example, I was analyzing all large cap schemes, and, I was filtering them on the basis of worst performance. So there were around, earlier, so I did this about a couple of years earlier when the reclassification of mutual funds was not being done. So there were multiple large cap funds from each mutual fund house. So in total, there were more than 130, 140 large cap schemes. And if you filter out the worst one, the top 10 worst performing ones, and you look at their more than 7-8 years performance or 10-year performance. So minimum criteria was 8 years. 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. I looked at their performance. The worst performing ones actually gave 8% returns, better than FD. So think of it this way. If you are ready to give time, if you have certain part of your capital which you don't think you need in the next 10 years, which are surplus, and they're just there for you to create wealth. You want to create wealth with that surplus amount. I think then that corpus should not be parked in FDs. That should go to mutual funds. But of course, your goals, your midterm, short-term needs should not depend on them. You think that's surplus. Even if I, lose 20% of it, which is, the most you would lose in a mutual fund if you're invested for 3, 4, 5 years, I'm okay losing even 30, 40, 20% of this. Even if 60, 70% I get back after 3 years, it's okay. I won't regret it much. But my plans don't depend on this. My goals don't depend on this. This is surplus. I think that is the amount of capital you should invest, and you should give it 7, 8, 10 years. I think not only easily you will, defeat inflation, but also, you'll get handsome returns, or simply choose an index fund. Don't just, even if you are jittery about choosing an active fund and your selection going wrong, I'm telling you the worst case scenario wherein you choose an active fund and your selection was the worst. You probably got the worst possible advisor and he gave you the worst scheme. Your returns would still beat FD given a 10-year window. But if you don't want to take that risk, I think index funds, you should definitely invest in index funds, whatever surplus you have.
Okay. Okay. Moving on. You talk about a lot of retirement planning options. You touch upon NPS and retirement plans of mutual funds and Atal Pension Yojana and so on. So, what according to you is better of these?
Right. So again, it depends on a case-to-case basis, but in general, so after sovereign gold bond, I think one instrument which is the next blind instrument that I could suggest almost everyone has to be National Pension Scheme. One thing that's great with National Pension Scheme is that progressively every couple of years, I've seen that the government is making it more and more attractive. So earlier there was this case wherein your entire corpus was being taxed. Then it came that it's divided 40%, 60%, and this part will not be taxed, the other part will be taxed. A couple of changes I've seen which have been progressive and more better for the investor. Also, in terms of NPS, we know that it defeats PF. We know that it beats most fixed return retirement plans because it has a equity component. And we know that logically, equity works better in the long run, and you can't get a longer run than NPS. If you're a 30-year-old individual, you're basically investing part of your money in equity. So you're allowing equities to work for you for the next 30 years. So logically, NPS makes all kind of sense to me. Having said that, and this is another thing that we need to keep in mind, that as a nation grows economically, as a nation, when we move towards being a developing country, towards being a developed country, generally the trend is that income tax rates fall in most countries. So when we are investing in NPS today, and I know that I'll be redeeming it, if I'm a 40-year-old, I know I'm redeeming it 20 years down the line. If I'm a 30-year-old, I will be redeeming it 30 years down the line. I don't really need to worry about the tax structure today, because most likely 95% when the redemption comes 20 years, 30 years down the line, redemption tax benefits will be much more than what they are today. This is a very long-term instrument, and most likely you will be much happier. You will get more favorable terms when you end up redeeming it after 20 years. And thereby it makes a lot of sense for all young and middle-aged professionals.
Okay. We didn't talk about insurance. So can you just talk about some of the common mistakes that people make while taking insurance, and the basic insurance that people need to have?
So, ma'am, the reason I started Finology 3.5 years ago as a YouTube channel was because my blood used to boil with all those insurance mis-selling that happens in the financial world. So this question is actually very close to my heart, because this gave birth to Finology. So the first few videos I made, which are now deleted because they were pathetic in quality. I did not know how to speak on camera. They were all around mis-selling in insurance. So, what has happened is, a lot of people, I think Indians are very particular about real estate, gold, and insurance. These are the three things. Yes, we do want. We compromise on mutual funds, savings, but these are the three things we want. And insurance companies know that. They know that, if they sell you anything in disguise of insurance, you're ready to listen to them. if a mutual fund agent goes to them, you probably won't even think about it because you always think it's optional. When my salary increases, I'll do it. But insurance hits an emotional chord. You instantly feel if you're not taking it, you're doing injustice to your family. You're leaving them vulnerable. And insurance companies know that, and thereby they design all kinds of pathetic products that benefits them and harms the ultimate consumer. So insurance, please keep it very simple. Buy a term plan for the earning members of the family. If husband wife both work, get it for both of them. If only one of the partners work, get it for them. So only earning members get life insurance, not for 99 years. I think these insurance companies sell insurance for 99 years, 100 years, absolutely unnecessary. Take insurance till the time you hope that your children will be independent. So if your children are 25 years younger to you and you think they would be independent at least by the time they turn 30, you take insurance till you're 55 years old. They are 25 years younger to you. By the time you're 55, they will be 30. Take for 60 years. I think in most of these scenarios, it makes no sense to take life insurance after 65 years because in all likelihood, your children will be independent by the time you're 65. But of course, it depends on a case-by-case basis because then you don't have dependents. If you have children who are independent, you don't have dependents. So you don't need life insurance after that. How much life insurance to take? I think the maximum allowed by the regulator, they keep changing it, and I'm bad at tracking that. But I think it's around 20% of 20 times your annual income. So if your CTC right now is 5 lakh rupees a year, you're eligible to get 1 crore of life insurance. And I think you should get it because it's really cheap. Pure term plan is really cheap. If you are anywhere between 25 years to 30 years of age, 1 crore of life insurance should cost you 500, 600 rupees a month, 7,000 rupees a year. So it's very, very cheap. No reason not to utilize the full limit allowed, 20% of your CTC. So definitely go for that. Another thing is the premium is fixed for life. So buy it as soon as possible. Unlike health insurance, wherein the premium changes every couple of years, every 3 years, life insurance, if you buy as a 25-year-old and your premium is 500 rupees a month for 1 crore of insurance up to next 40 years, even when you are 50, you're 55, you're 60, your premium will remain 500 rupees a month. So makes all the sense in the world that from your first check, from your first salary, the first thing that you do is buy a term plan. And then as you get increments, you keep on buying additional plans every 3, 4, 5 years so that your overall life insurance is 20 times of your existing CTC. Okay. And please don't buy any ULIPs, anything else. Your life insurance is just done with one simple term plan.
What about health insurance? What are the basics that they need to have?
Right. So, yeah. So, with health insurance, I think what I have seen, I have tracked life insurance more because I think at times it just interests me more. I think fortunately, I've seen lesser extent of mis-selling in health insurance compared to life insurance because, there's always this option in health insurance that you can stop it any year. Whereas, incentive to mis-sell life insurance is much more because you're locked in for 10 years, 5 years in ULIPs, endowment plans and things like that. So fortunately, I've seen lesser amount of mis-selling in health insurance. Having said that, the amount is critical. How much of life insurance you need. So firstly, for a person around 25 to 35 years of age, I think health insurance costs 1,000 rupees per 1 lakh per year. So if you want to be insured for 1 lakh rupees, your premium would be around 1,000. How much life insurance you need depends on the kind of medical services, facilities you need. So whether you would be okay going to a government hospital or you want to be admitted in the best hospital available in your city, a lot depends on that. a thumb rule for me would be at least 5 lakh rupees of insurance per member. And so one difference between health insurance and life insurance is you buy health insurance for everyone in your family. You buy life insurance for earning members of your family. Health insurance, everyone could fall ill. So get health insurance for everyone. I think it should be 5 lakh rupees if you're buying it individually at least, or 10 lakh rupees if you have a 3-4 member family in totality, because not everyone is likely to fall ill in the same year. So 10 lakh as an umbrella is good enough. Which company to go for? So this is one instrument wherein we face the most difficulty recommending it to our clients that which company they should go for, because unlike other financial products, we know what is right, we know what is bad. Health insurance, a lot depends on which health insurance company has cashless tie-ups in your particular city. So in a not so big city like Raipur, only a couple of insurance vendors make sense. In a bigger metro city, almost all health insurance can make sense from this perspective. But then you look at things like how much pre-hospitalization days are covered, how much post-hospitalization days are covered, which diseases are covered, more the better. What are the exclusions? Exclusions are most important, less the better, and things like this. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just end this session with one last question. So what's your view on these alternative assets such as Bitcoins and, some people go and buy wine and painting and so on to,
Right.
multiply their wealth. So what is your
Right.
view on all that? Yeah.
I mean, I am totally against all of this. So, one simple reason regarding these cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, my fundamental question to Bitcoin investors are, how do you determine the intrinsic value? With stocks, it's like the company earns 1,000 rupees a year. There are 10 shares. You divide 1,000 by 10. So EPS is 100 rupees. And then you decide how much multiple you want to pay for 100 rupees per year. So it's like buying a shop. If that shop costs 1 lakh rupees and I know that I'll get a rental yield of 20,000 rupees a year, I know that in 5 years, my cost will be covered. Now, whether I'm satisfied with 5 years of payback time is or not is an individual thing, but there is an intrinsic value. I can at least justify what I pay, saying 5 years of payback is good enough. How do you justify if Bitcoin is undervalued or overvalued at $20,000, $50,000, or $2? There's just no intrinsic value. It does not give you any regular rental, dividend, or interest income. So you can't use that to calculate. There's one reason why Bitcoin is valuable, which is scarcity. There are only 21 million or so Bitcoins that could be mined. But scarcity only has a value when you are sure that it cannot be supplemented. Like gold. Gold is valuable because it's scarce. Gold per se does not have any intrinsic value, but it's limited, very limited in quantity. And that no other metal can suddenly become precious and can take the place of gold. It's irreplaceable. It has stood the test of time. So scarcity along with non-replaceability makes gold valuable. With Bitcoin, am I sure that there will not be any other cryptocurrency in the next 5 years that will be more advanced and which will take over Bitcoin? I'm not sure. Unless I'm 100% sure about its irreplaceability, I don't think Bitcoin has any intrinsic value. And, regarding these paintings and things like that, I mean, I don't know. I've never analyzed it, never found it attractive. Again, I think it works on a greater fool theory to a lot of extent, but it does not make a lot of financial sense to me, honestly. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Pranjal. So, good captain. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go
Thank you. Very insightful. I think it's a masterclass on investment. So interesting. We learned
Thank
a
you,
lot.
sir.
I know we have over 750 viewers are watching this program on all our social media. I'm quite sure they'll think. And I think our program beauty is that people watch around say next 2-3 days, they'll keep watching and the numbers really go to a very huge number. We got a number of
Hopefully it
questions
was
on
worth
YouTube,
it
Facebook.
for your
Sorry?
viewers. Hopefully it was worth it for your viewers.
Now, Lokesh, there are a couple of questions in the come in the chat box. Would you like to have a look at them, or you want me to read them so that you can both only focus on the question? Is it okay with you?
You can read it out, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Now I go to the question what has come in the Facebook and Twitter, and before I take the question from Mr. Ashoka, now the question is: now that COVID is at full pace and India crossing almost 1 lakh cases a day, do you think it is time that I sell majority of my portfolio and look for an opportunity to buy DIPS?
Look for the opportunity
To buy DIPS, he says it. Dips, DIPS?
Buying dips,
Dips.
I think.
Public.
Buying on dips. Okay. So
Buy at dips.
right. So I think it depends on the answer depends on why you bought those stocks. Did you buy those stocks because someone recommended it to you that this will give you 50-60% returns, the market is doing well? If that was the case, if you bought those stocks borrowing someone else's conviction, then yes, I think these levels are a good point to exit. If you bought those stocks just because you wanted to ride this rally and you were not confident or really had strong conviction about the future of the company, yes, good time to exit. But if you bought this stock in the first place thinking that this is the stock that will enjoy the India growth story for the next decade or 2 decades, and this is the stock that is set to benefit from rising disposable income and things like that, and the India growth story, I have this to say you that in the stock market, how do you become really rich? Like how do you spread your fortune? It's by landing up on 5 baggers, 10 baggers, 20 baggers, 100 baggers. Once in a while, you land up on a stock that becomes 10x, 20x, 50x, even 100x. Now, you only find such a stock when you resist selling it when it becomes 2x, you resist selling it when it becomes 4x, you resist selling it when it becomes 10x. So if you keep doing this, that when your stock doubles, you think now is the best time to exit. Otherwise, what happens if it falls further? I'll lose out on the capital gains I've made. Then I think you'll never end up with a 10x, with a 20x, with a 50x in your life. And all great investors have become great because they have resisted this temptation. So if you bought the stock on your own conviction and for the long run, and you think intrinsically nothing has changed about the company's fundamental business model are all intact, I think there's no reason to sell. If it falls, average it out, buy more, and there's no reason to sell. But if it was borrowed conviction, yes, good time to sell.
Lokesh would like to add, because one more supplementary question has come to this.
Yeah.
They say today the valuation is all really very high in terms of the stocks, in terms of seeing the performance of the company, and vis-a-vis the stock price, it has got no match. And many people, including Lokesh's article in New Business Line, always says they are valued very high, keeping in the earning capacity or the performance. So under these circumstances, the people who are investing really get scared whether to stay invested. I know last January to March, COVID has really come down. People now think this time the COVID people know the reasons, they know how to survive. So it may not come down as much as last year. We are really confused. Whom to listen, how to take the right decision, because you're an expert, you will be able to throw some light on this. Lokesh, you would like to share your insights?
Yeah, see, the experience of last year would have taught us that it's really not possible to, catch the exact bottom, and you can't really catch the exact peak also. We really don't know where it's going to peak, and you can sell it at that point. And you're right that valuations do look very expensive. I think it's at 2008 level, the Sensex, and the 1994, but it's not as pricey as 1994. It's not a bubble as such. And the thing is, we are actually discounting the forward FY22, FY23 earnings as of now. And I agree with Pranjal that if the stock that you have invested in, if you have high conviction, if it has good business model, and if it's going to give good earnings growth year after year, I think you can just hold on to it. There's no point in selling because you sell and then you don't know how much is going to fall and whether you can actually catch the exact bottom. So there's really no point in selling and then we don't know how much is going to fall also. And the point you have to keep in mind is there's too much of liquidity that's actually driving this whole rally. And the central banks are going to go on pumping more and more money. So the corrections, even if they happen, they may not be that deep. And even if they are deep, they may not last very long as we saw last March. It just bounced back in no time at all. So there's really no point actually selling now. So if you're holding a stock, just hold it because it's, unless like Pranjal said, if you're not very convinced or if you've borrowed the money to invest, in which case that will kind of hurt you. So then you can maybe exit some part of your portfolio. Otherwise, I think just hold on is what is a better strategy at this point.
Great. Here is the question from Mr. Ashoka, India. No, his question is, Mr. Pranjal Sharma, you said that the index fund investment is comparatively safe, and you said before that most large caps give 8%. Which investment out of these two is better if I decide to put my investment for next 5 years?
So, I mean, if we compare the worst active fund versus the index fund, first, you have to be really, really lucky or in a sense unlucky to actually be able to discover which will be the worst active fund. I think that's a really tough job. Having said that, in general, specifically for large cap, because, there is a lot of efficiency in large caps. A lot of analysts are tracking that. I think if you're looking at large caps, stick to, I generally prefer active funds in case of small caps, flexi caps, multi caps. Large cap is a category wherein I actually prefer index funds because the investable universe after the reclassification is very small. These funds have to select stocks within the top 100 companies according to free float market cap listed in the market. So all these active funds, everyone who are focused on the large cap are actually investing in those 100 companies and trying to identify which out of those 100 companies are the best 30, best 40, best 51, which I think, and they are charging close to 0.81% for doing that. And that goes out of the amount you invest. So I think in large caps, because the investable universe is so small and so many entities, researchers tracking it, there is a lot of efficiency there. I think in large caps, it makes sense to go for index funds. You save 0.81% of expense ratio, and that adds on to your return. Go with index funds.
Yeah, and actually our analysis shows that active funds are not able to outperform their benchmarks last few years at least. And as Pranjal said, the small and mid cap funds have a better ability to outperform the benchmarks. So index funds in those actually make more sense.
Great. Here's the question. It says, Pranjal, they want to know, one Rajaram from Pondicherry. Are you more a fundamental analysis professional or technical analysis professional? Which do you suggest is most significant in the time of crisis?
So my paternal uncle lives in Puducherry. My grandmother is there. I visit Puducherry every year.
Yes.
So that brings a lot of memories. Beautiful city. Lucky you are. I am in Raipur. No match for Puducherry. So, but having said that, I know nothing about technical. So, all I know is there's something called candlestick, something called moving average, but I'm least interested in that. And I know nothing about technical analysis. I am completely a fundamental investor.
Good. And there are a couple of questions which has come. It's about black money, which you're not concerned today. Second thing is also people asking about IPO. In general, they ask, which IPO are you most excited about and why? There's also somebody asked a question about Kalyan Jewelers IPO is good. So we don't want to really suggest to the people who are watching which is good, which is bad. They have to take a call on that. But in general, maybe you would like to share your thoughts.
So almost no IPO excites me actually. I have applied for a couple of IPOs in my life. One was CDSL. I did not get that. Fortunately, I got it much cheaper, about a 50% discount from the IPO price. I still hold it in the last 3-4 years. One more IPO I applied, I can't recall. CAMS was the one. So I applied. It was expensive, but I wanted that. So these are the 2 IPOs I've applied in my life. Almost no IPO excites me for the simple reason that, think of me as if I'm the owner of the company and I am selling stake in my company, what do I want? I don't want you to, I don't want fair value, right? I don't want fair value for my company. I want as high a value as I could get. When I'm selling my shop, when I'm selling my home, I don't want to sell it at market price. I want to sell it as high as possible. I want to find a not so intelligent buyer who could pay me 1.5 crore for a house that's worth 1 crore. And that's what happens in IPOs. These investment bankers, they are paid in crores to basically ensure that the company gets maximum valuation per stock, whatever valuation that they can justify, and ensure that the IPO is subscribed fully. When the company is listed and secondary, it's traded in the secondary market, is when market price discovery happens. In IPOs, there's no price discovery per se. The promoters and the investment bankers decide, okay, this is the price in which we want to bring the IPO, and we are confident with great PR, we'll make sure that the IPO is subscribed multiple times. Of course, IPOs have done really well in the last 1 year. Junk IPOs, not so good IPOs, but then you can't bet on yearly trends. You have to have a discipline. You have to have a process that works in the long run. In the long run, last 10 years, how many IPOs have opened on a positive note on the listing day? More than 60% of the IPOs actually give you listing losses on the listing day. In the last 1 year, it's 70-80% IPOs have opened positively. So that kind of creates recency bias. But that happened because the market was in a runaway bull run. In general, because there's no price discovery, there's no guarantee of fair pricing. I wouldn't want to. And so whenever I'm attracted to an IPO, I ask this to myself, and I think every viewer should ask this. Out of the 4,000 listed companies, how many companies do I need in my portfolio? 15 companies, 20 companies? Suddenly, this 4,000 first companies entering the market, and I am made to think that this is better than the 4,000 options already available. That's very unlikely. Very rarely that would be the case. Otherwise, some or the other company that's already listed is a better option. Also, I think, I see these in the media and social media everywhere, that on listing day, this company made investors crorepati because the listing gains was 100%. Okay, percentage wise, very few stocks give you a listing gain of 100%. But this is very misleading in the sense that how much are you allowed to invest in an IPO? If an IPO that gives you 100% listing gains was oversubscribed 100 times at least, and at max, you'll be getting one lot. A lot is worth 14,000-15,000 rupees. So that 100% is actually 14,000-15,000 rupees. And that happens in one IPO out of 100 IPOs. So IPO is a bet wherein you have 1 in 100 chance of doubling your 15,000 rupees. How attractive is that? Not very.
Very, very interesting input. Good, you invest in CAMS. CAMS is Chennai-based company, I remember. And you still stay invested in CDSL? I think because all monopoly.
Yeah. Right. So that's my biggest holding actually.
Oh, lovely.
Love it.
Now, here is an interesting question from Mr. Pandey. It's got nothing to do with investment. He's got a very genuine crib. He says, when we purchase petrol, we pay tax and duty on petrol. When I buy groceries, there is a separate GST for that. When I buy clothes, there's a GST. When I invest in stocks, I pay tax to the government. Now, my question is, I'm paying tax on every penny I spend. Then why am I supposed to pay tax on my earnings? As an investor, can you tell me?
Well, I mean, taxes, I'm just generally not interested in taxes. So yeah, I don't know. I don't.
No, it's for the national well-being. No, you have to pay tax. No, at the end of the day, whatever money is earned by the government.
Pranjal has mentioned that in his book also.
Yes.
Numerous taxes.
Yes. Don't worry about income and don't worry about tax. Worry about income. And I saw the tagline of yours. Very interesting. The book, very interesting. I think another 3-4 minutes there. I'll try and squeeze in as many questions as possible before we let you go. And here's a question you mentioned about passion is for additional income. You should be able to invest in equity if you have a passion in it. But how do I identify the passion? Passion is something which you can't identify yourself. You keep doing something which you don't even know you have that intrinsic capability in you. So if you do something where you invest in, you'll land up in deep trouble. I know some of them. So how do you, especially when you invest in stocks and shares, the passion is one thing, very dangerous word that you go on, because I'm passionate to go and invest and get into trouble. So what you want piece of advice to people, though they are very passionate, how cautious, what safety net they should put around them when they want to go for such investment? I think, Lokesh, I also request you to answer this question, please. Yes, Mr. Pranjal.
Right. So, I think, yes, in the beginning, when you are starting investment, it's exciting. It's really fun. You check money control every day. You see those tickers going up and down. I hope some of you check ticker by Finology every day instead of money control, and you're excited by those price movements. And that you can mistake it as passion, because you're having real fun. You're making a few bucks every day, and that kind of sounds exciting. And you trick yourself into thinking that you are passionate. But the difference here is that, so I think passion is something in which, even if you are destined, even if God has this final say that if you get into this field, you're doomed to fail. And even then, you're interested in doing the same thing. I think that is passion. So, stock market for me, even if my portfolio is red, even if it remains in red forever, because I'm not depending on my monthly earnings, on running my home from the earnings of stock market, I think I'm able to detach my earnings versus my passion. For most people, stock market is exciting as long as it's giving them, 5% gains every month and things like that in good times. And they think they know it all, and this is the way to lead a life. And in that process, I see youngsters quitting their jobs, sitting at home at the terminal, trying to make a few percentage points every month. I think that's deadly. Ask yourself this: even if the next 10 years, no matter how hard you try, no matter how great stocks you pick, if it's 100% sure that the next 10 years you will be in losses in the stock market if you invest directly, would you still like to do it? For me, the answer is yes, because when I invest in stocks, I learn about industries. I would have known nothing about IT. I am a law graduate. I did my PG in finance. I'll know a little bit about IT because I've studied dozens of IT companies. I know about banking. I know about steel industry. So, for me, any amount that I lose in the stock market is basically tuition fee for increasing my general knowledge. And that to me ensures that I'm passionate about it. And I think for everyone, the answer would differ, but in due course, it becomes clear.
So many people who are passionate, done extremely well. A.R. Rahman for music, and boxing champion Muhammad Ali. Nobody knows. Some incident brought out. I'm sure some incident in the people's life, they burn their finger. They'll be the passion. They'll be controlled, invested properly. So I think we are coming to end up. There are a couple of more questions that come, and I think you have only answered maybe one last question. What is all about what you mentioned is renting is better than really investing, because in the present scenario you don't rent. But it says, how do you look at the appreciation, what can happen in the long-term gain, what you'll get? But you really can't judge the present scenario. How do you judge? And when you do a right investment go for property or renting?
Right. So, of course, there are properties which give substantially disproportionate returns, which are nowhere linked to the market. There are properties that are multi-bagger properties because the government does something in the locality. There's a smart city project that comes up and things like that. They keep happening. But again, I would say these are uncontrollables. You don't make an investment decision thinking an uncontrollable event will benefit you. You focus on controllables. And if something extraordinary happens, it's just part of the process. So you focus on controllables. And how do you focus on that? You track historical returns, how real estate has performed, how property in your area, your state has performed, things like that. And then you look at how the scenario is changing. I see a couple of changes. Which were the two industries that basically, hustled for prime real estate, specifically commercial real estate? One, banks, ATMs. I think 20% of commercial real estate, prime commercial real estate, was occupied by banks and ATMs, which drove the prices up. Second, restaurants, hotels and restaurants. Now think what is happening. Restaurants are replaced by cloud kitchen to a lot of extent. I think 100 from 80% dine-in to 20% delivery earlier. It's now 50-50, even more in some cases. So, if we are shifting to cloud kitchens, those restaurants that drove demand for high traffic areas wherein, they could cater to footfalls and things like that, that demand set to go down. Banks, I see in the last couple of years, ATM, every bank has virtually decreased their total ATMs. Branches are being closed. Also with this, PSU banks merging, and you have 3 branches in a kilometer, all 3 different banks. Now they are merging into one entity. Branches will reduce drastically. So, these shopping complexes. Now we have a lot of phone buying happening online, and warehouses don't need prime real estate. They could do with an outer space in the city. So with all these trends happening, world going digital, online, one thing could happen. Either the past returns offered by real estate could sustain, or they could go down. I don't see they rising drastically or offering, surprising returns. I just don't see that happening.
Great insight. It's a great evening. I think we have come. If you let us think, there are so many questions. We can keep going. So I must really appreciate and place on record, Pranjal. You've got a fantastic mind of analyzing the thing in a simple way, make people like us understand. And thank you, Lokeshwari, for also joining us and leading the conversation. I also like to thank Sweta from Westland for facilitating Pranjal to come and speak to us. I know how busy is Pranjal. He's got over 2 million viewers in YouTube, and all the time it's odd
Nothing
for
like
time.
I like such discussions. I'm completely free. I'm open for more such discussions.
Now, since you mentioned, you also said like discussion, we'll keep getting you over to MMA. And next time you go to Pondicherry, you go via our MMA. Maybe our people will be more than happy to interact with you personally. And we can even request Lokesh to join us for that conversation with you at MMA Management Center. Thanks so much for joining. Again, as I said, over 750 viewers watching the program. As a token of our appreciation, since you are not here with us, this is what we can do on your behalf. Because on your behalf, what you're going to do, you're going to present 200 face masks that people who are around us go and give to them. What our team does, they go around, present these masks to the people, make them understand, even though the vaccine is there, this is what can really save them. And our people, our staff go around to the places and distribute this. I thought on your behalf, we will do this as a token of appreciation. Thank you so much. And thanks, Pranjal. Thank you, Lokeshwari madam, for joining us this evening. It's
thank
always,
you, thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
thank you, Pranjal.
Great insight. And all the viewers who watch this program live on various social media portals, stay safe, stay healthy. And unless you stay healthy and stay safe, I think things cannot be improved. Wear the mask and maintain the social distancing. Until we meet again, bye-bye. Good night. See you, Pranjal. We'll catch up with you soon.